Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Afifah and I will start with the introduction of Adat perpatih. So, Adat perpatih is one of the custom or tradition practice in Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. The Minangkabau people are the one who invented this custom. However, there is no specific date when this custom was created. And to be precise, a Minang leader named Sultan Balun, who is known as Datuk Perpatih Nan Sebatang, are the one who introduced this custom. It represents a way of life, and Adat Perpatih also covers aspects of life, including the law of the marriage, inheritance, and societal problems. And Adat Perpatih was brought into Peninsular Malaysia by Minangkabau people in the 12th century. Adat Perpatih are divided into suku, which means family group. It includes perut, which embrace ruang, ruang embrace rumpun, and each of the family has its own leader, who is known as kodim. In Negeri Sembilan, there are 12 clans, which are Biduanda, Paya Kumbuh, Tanah Datar, Batu Hampar, Tiga Nenek, Anak Aceh, Mungkal, Seri Melenggang, Anak Melaka, Seri Lemak, Batu Belang, and Tiga Batu. In Adat Perpatih, it is seen that this custom is more favorable to women, such as the division of estate must be given to women in the family. Men are not included as the customary landowners, but they are allowed to handle the land and become the life occupant. And mostly, women's rights were placed under their ancestral and will be entrusted to handle the properties. Adat Perpatih favor women more than men, as they are the one who will carry the tribe's blood, due to the fact that they are the one who will give birth to the tribe members. Other than that, it is also to protect the women's rights if men abandon them after a. So that's all from me for the introduction, and I will pass to the next presenter to continue.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Nurhanisa binti Ali, and I will explain the topic that has been chosen by our group, which is Adat Perpatih, an academic review on gender equality perspective. So, Adat Perpatih is the matrilineal philosophy and social structure that does have a specific position under such imaginings as an ideal Malay homeland with a long history. It has been the unsettling within much of this Adat revivalism, especially women's supposed improve the standing within Adat ideology and the practices. As example, the Adat Perpatih tradition may convey through its customary land. In Adat Perpatih society, inheriting the customary land is essential to the daughters of the family. Customary land is responsible for bringing the members of the suku as well as the family together in this respect. The colonial state legislations that regulated certain parts of village property relations and reintroduced a kind of matrilineal inheritance may be considered as actively increasing the women's individual rights to lands. This regulation provided women with separate land grants for traditional lands, replacing their clan ownership rights. Thus, not only have women continued to hold titles to ancestral land, such as rice fields, orchards, and household compound land passed down from mothers to daughters, but they also hold a sizable amount of non-ancestral land, such as rubber fields, which have been characterized as male in both popular and academic writings. It is the customary community's obligation to retain and protect their traditional land as an essential part of their culture. Without the customary land, the customary community's identity can no longer be glorified. Next, for the authority roles.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Atira binti Muhammad Zaidi. Today I will present and explain on the roles of government related to the Adat Perpatih. But first of all, I will explain on the meaning of Adat and Perpatih. So according to Abdullah Siddiq in 1975, adat or custom can be defined as the habit of performing a repeated action that has been recognized by the society as a norm of life that must be observed by all members of society. Each custom or each race has its own traditions and beliefs. While perpatih is a Malaysian tradition that is done in Negeri Sembilan and Nanding Melaka, the majority of adat perpatih law is based on conventions and family traditions. There are notable variations between perpatih and Temanggung customs, which are both practiced in Malaysia. The Council of Rulers or Kings, which is made up of 9 sultans and 4 governors or Yang di-Pertuan Negeri, is the highest formal body in Malaysia's government, which is state ruler. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong or YDPA or Malaysia's Supreme King leads this body. The Council of Rulers has a number of responsibilities, including accepting or rejecting Islamic religious concerns and customs for the Federation of Malay, with the exception of Sabah and Sarawak. The Malays' privileges are protected by the Council, which operates a separate entity. When the federal government requires guidance on Islam or Malay custom, the Council of Rulers is the primary source of information. Similarly, for the Chief Minister representing the state government on the same issues, the Negeri Sembilan House of Justice and Leaders is the major point of...
Other than that, according to the other scholar, the majority of landowners are elderly women and their daughters who inherit the land really stay in the hamlet, obstructing the land's growth. Landowners' daughters, according to interviews, are not interested in working on the idle lands. Agricultural land has been left idle. By adopting the state of Negeri Sembilan, the government implemented policies and made attempts to address the issue of idle agricultural land. Rembau, Seremban, Jelebu, Jempol, Kuala Pilah, and Tampin are the only 6 administrative districts in Negeri Sembilan that are still practicing adat perpatih. In Seremban, Sungai Ujung, there is no customary land. However, in Negeri Sembilan, there are approximately 12 tribes, or known as suku, are left. Customary land law is highly respected in Malaysia, particularly in Negeri Sembilan, where specific districts are committed to preserving and maintaining the perpatih tradition. The administration of customary land law in Negeri Sembilan then adapted to customary law in the perpatih tradition. As Malaysian customary law is divided into 2 halves, which are perpatih customary law and Temanggung customary law. In the legal system, adjudication is the source of law. It is impossible to overestimate the role of judges in the legal system. As a result, we can see how Malaysian government protects adat land legislation in the Undang-Undang Malaysia Cetakan Semula Akta 134, Akta Orang Asli 1954.
Thus, the government need to take the responsibility and play an essential role in order to protect the land law of adat perpatih in Negeri Sembilan. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Syahira binti Syafi'i. So I will explain the central role of women. In the last 3 decades, many development initiatives have focused on the Mukim that have undergoing study. Most of the communities in the Mukim now are available by road vehicles. 90% of the families have access to electricity and water supply, school, healthcare facilities, public facilities, and religious places. Several economic programs have been well developed and executed to aid in the improvement of the agriculture in traditional community. These changes and development outside of the Mukim have a significant influence on adat perpatih, especially after the agricultural project and the rest of the industry. The development of learning has resulted in a movement in work attitude. Fewer have received a formal education. Generally, up to secondary school are interested in agricultural profession in the farming sector. Such jobs are today seen as unpleasant, embarrassing, and physically challenging. In order to avoid struggling in the farming areas, most of the youth relocated to cities soon after completing their education and looking for a better job, especially in the industrial sector and the government sector. Others, who are too elder to work in the cities, have migrated to agricultural support programs that provide a better economic.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Haja binti Abdul Razak. I will present the challenges of Adat perpatih and on gender equality perspective. The first challenges is occasional segregation. As stated in the article, benefit in agricultural planning are not evenly distributed between men and women. This shows that men have a major role in the economic system, while women only a side role or reproductive role. At that time, women are suitable work at a rural area and men are suitable work at urban areas. This is because men have a high mental endurance and able to survive, while they consider women are too weak. Here is occurrence of occupational regressions between women and men. It will restriction on employment option between women and men. Productivity distorting the labor market. In other words, it will hurt the economic growth. Occupational segregation often occur in type of occupation and areas of residence. It is difficult to construct the class scheme with a classification to equally applicable to men and women, but still stereotype against women that should work in low level and only in a certain field of employment. It will give effect to the different class structure for men and women. The view need to be eliminated with a truly precise form of understanding in order to produce individuals who not only see them from a purely external point of view but also observe them from point of view
inheritance land and heritage property. In the Adat perpatih, it is stated that inheritance land is land inherited from mother to daughter and subsequently to female descendants. It is a principle of customary inheritance land division rules that must be adhered to and cannot be changed at will. This is because inheritance land is important to ensure their survival. Most of the heritage land in Negeri Sembilan carry out many agricultural activities such as rubber tapping, and many heritage lands are also evident in rural areas such as Rembau. Furthermore, non-inheritance land is husband and wife search land or individual search land where the land will be inherited to the male members. However, if the land is inherited to female member, then the land will continue to be passed down to female descendants. Nowadays, there are people living in Negeri Sembilan, especially those who are married to people born in the state who are less knowledgeable about this matter. Some still think that inheritance land will be inherited to male members. This is because they are accustomed to the Adat Temenggung. Adat Temenggung and Adat perpatih are different from the position in the family. The Adat Temenggung prioritize male member inheriting property. The property and land will be passed down to the male descendant. Some also object to the Adat perpatih land and property system in Negeri Sembilan because they consider it oppressive and discriminated against men. In Adat perpatih, if the land is inherited by the father and have a daughter and a son, then the father must give priority to daughter inheriting the land. As stated in the article, 57% of the village rubber landowner in 1976 were women, but there is also land owned by men when the post-independence government offered marginal lands for cultivation. This shows that women also have the same right as a man to own land. In addition, women also have the right to inherit property. Heritage property is categorized as inheritance and search property. Inheritance such as houses and farmland.
Okay, for the next, I would like to present the recommendation for the issues. For the first recommendation is women are human resource that have potential to determine direction on development success. Women have to often been defined by their reproduction roles as wife and mothers. They not only play a major role in the formation of future generation, hence they are important in economic resources. For now, they are 1/3 of the total labor force in terms of labor participations. Women's participation increased since 1990 until now. Almost 40% total labor force in Malaysia are women. In the sector rural and agricultural, women continue to be an important factor. Female employment has also been increased in number in the manufacturing sector, especially in the textile sector and electronics. In the service sector such as community, social, private as well as public sector, women's participation is also increasing. Women have also long played a role active in state politics. Even in Article 1 of CEDAWS Convention and Elimination on Discrimination against Women about the obligation to discrimination against women stated that the term discrimination against women shall mean any distinction, exclusion or restriction made on the basis of sex which has the effect or purpose of impairing or nullifying the recognition, enjoyment or exercise by women irrespective of their marital status on the basis of equality and of women and of men and women have the right and fundamental freedom in the political, economic, social, cultural, civil or any other field. During pre-colonial era in Negeri Sembilan, the assumption that men as head of household that do most of the work and that households are place of equitable redistributions of resources and that men are the main property holders. Women did obtain considerable advantage from their place within the social system. So this system clearly conferred some degree of economic independence of women. So instead, to show the complex roles that gender relation as may play in the such change and to detail the linkage between local level and larger political economic forces.
Is protect the right and position of women in inherited customary land and property by recognizing women as trustees. Inheritance of customary land is given to women in order to maintain the well-being of women if they experience a situation such as the death of husband or in a situation of divorce if their marital relationship cannot last long. Apart from that, the Sharia also places women in a higher position and dignity by stating that a woman should be taken care of in terms of her safety, place of her residence, and food and drink to a father, brother, uncle, or husband if the woman has married. Although customary land was inherited by women only, but men also to live and settle in houses built on the customary land. In addition, men also given permission to carry out agricultural activity in cultivating the customary land. Customary land also give men the right to justice. Any man who had married many of the women who inherited their customary inheritance land could still live and settle on the customary land belonging to his wife. The study from Jabatan Mufti Negeri Sembilan also agrees if the practice of inheritance of customary land is similar to the concept as a trustee. This practice of inheritance of customary land has stipulated that the inheritance of customary land is giving the right only to women of maternal lineage only through the matrilineal system. However, the women whose names are listed as ownership in the land grant are only as trustees because the land does not belong to them alone, but it is joint ownership with other tribes. Then,
customary land cannot be sold or mortgaged without the consent of the customary chief. This means that they are only trustees and have no right to decide for themselves whether to sell or mortgage the customary land, even though they are facing a desperate situation. And land to be sold or mortgaged is only allowed to women from the same tribe only. The last recommendation is proposed intermediate path in inheritance of customary land of practicing adat perpatih. The process of customary land transfer has given a poor perspective in adat perpatih because it be concluded that the inheritance of customary land practice is quite different from the practice of Islamic Sharia, that is the division of inheritance by faraid. Some method that can be used is by wakaf and hibah. The definition of wakaf in terms of terminology is to withhold one's property for the benefit of others. The wakaf property must be a permanent property and always in good condition in order to provide good benefits to consumers in general, with the aim of the wakaf giver being able to draw closer to God. Through the method of wakaf, the same concept as the practice of adat perpatih can be applied. This is because a woman who inherited customary land from her mother before can endow the customary property to any of her children, either to her son or daughter. But if the woman still wants to defend the practice of inheriting customary land to women, she can still implement the concept of wakaf as long as it is not against Islamic law. However, there are effects that will occur if the concept of wakaf is used to replace the concept of perpatih customary practice. Other than that, hibah. A hibah is a contract of giving one's property given to another person voluntarily without expecting anything in return. Both of these concepts introduce a good practice because they can help the people of Negeri Sembilan who practice the perpatih customary system. However, the two concepts introduced also have a negative effect either from the point of view of the law of practice or give a bad effect to the recipient and giver of property. Therefore, to practice these two concepts give pressure and priority according to the situation that is happening at the same time. Therefore, it can be seen from the two concepts proposed by some researchers shows.
In conclusion, adat perpatih is a rule of social life based on family groups. The regulations covered all aspects such as legal, political, economic and social organization aspects. Ways of communicating and responsibilities towards each other are also decided by the custom. Even though the world has evolved into a new and modernized era where people are more influenced into Western perspective and culture, there are people who still follow and adapt adat perpatih in their daily lives. Biar mati anak, jangan mati adat is a term that always used, which they believed that custom should not be gone no matter how the world change. In gender perspective, woman is seen to inherit all properties while man is not given the rights of it. The issue of gender inequality is an issue that people mostly see as unfair, which came from misunderstanding of adat perpatih concept. With the rights to full inheritance and succession, it gives the woman an advantage to not totally depend on men or on other people. Discrimination towards gender equality should not be an issue. Instead, should be cherished the differences as every gender has its own role and specialty. So that
with this,
That
Participant